Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host. Today is February 20th, which is National Love Your Pet Day. And I am super excited for the guests that we're going to have coming on here shortly, but also super excited that my beautiful side host is with me today. How's it going, darling?
Oh, hello. Hey guys, glad I'm here. Glad I get to speak with Jake. I'm really excited for this conversation today.
Yes, thank you. I am as well. Jake Schneider, the owner of On Dog Training Academy and the host of the Learn, Laugh, Bark podcast. Jake, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited about this conversation. As any of you know who've been listening chronologically, this is all about matters of the heart this month, our heart-themed topic. And next week, we're going to talk about human love. But this week, we are going to talk about the love that pets can teach us and show us, and all things that have to do with that deep bonding connection that we can give and receive from our pets. I'm super excited for this conversation. Jake, if you will, just give us, kind of your background, catch us up to speed to the present time, and then we'll dive deep into this topic.
Yeah, well, so I've been dog training basically my entire life. My parents, they're dog trainers. They've had a dog training business since I think I was about like 9, I'm guessing. My mom would probably listen to this and be like, it's wrong, but it's somewhere around that area. And so I've kind of grew up in dog training. It's been kind of part of who I am. Me and my wife started it's out of our home, but a more in-person dog training business over 15 years ago. And that was going really good. And then when the pandemic hit, we said, hey, let's start up something virtually, since that's what you did during the pandemic, right? Everything was virtual. And so then we started up On Dog, and we've been doing that, and it's been really fun. And it's definitely different than like in-person training, but we've been doing that for a long time. And we enjoy kind of it's just a different challenge when it comes to dog training. Instead of getting your hands on the dogs, you're coaching people more, and there's a lot more, just challenges, but it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome.
I have a question right off the bat.
Yeah.
Do you prefer coaching dogs or do you prefer coaching people?
So when we started our business, we actually started like doing classes and stuff. And then we also were doing boarding at the time. And over time, we just kept getting these dogs. And there was a lot of people coming and going at our place. And we went, you know what, let's switch it up to do board and trains so that we're not getting as much people coming in. Cause I like to coach both, but like we have to kind of break them up at times, especially the dogs that we deal with. A lot of times people are sending their dogs away when they've had issues already. So there's something they need to work on. So if we can break them both up and then work on one and then train the other, that's ideal. Dogs, I think, are easier. I think it's easier to convince a dog to do something or to change something or not do something than it is to tell a person, hey, you got to kind of alter your life to kind of get this dog to be part of it. People have a hard time changing. I mean, I get it. I have a hard time changing things too. So it's fun on both sides, but the dogs, I would say, are probably easier.
Well, and I think that segues perfectly into the topic of love, because I personally think it is so much easier to give and receive love from a pet than it is from a human. So let's talk about that, and even just your upbringing with animals and the things that you learned by having, animals around you as a child and now into adulthood, and even some of the things that you communicate with those humans about what their pets can teach them and offer them if they are thinking about getting a pet, or maybe they're having difficulty with one, or, they want to perhaps offer that opportunity for their children to understand some of these things that pets can teach us.
Yeah. I mean, so I've always had dogs. I grew up with dogs, and I do think a part of who I am is because of what dogs have taught me. Like there was a dog, the first dog my mom ever got into dog training with, which kind of sprung her into becoming a trainer, was a Basset Hound, and her name was Kelsey. And she was always about the same age as I was. So my mom was crazy and got a dog at the same time she was apparently pregnant or just had me, which I tell people never do, but she did it. And so we kind of grew up together, and it taught me so much when it came to, especially when I started getting older and okay, now you're gonna have to take care of the dog. You have to let the dog out, you have to exercise and play with him, train him, do all these things. It kind of taught me to I want to say empathy, but more so even than that is like I have something that's dependent on me, right? So like I imagine I don't have kids, so I gotta imagine this is how parents feel when they have kids. It's like suddenly now there's something in life that's gonna take your time up that depends on you, and that's what the dog became to me. And Kelsey, even though it was my mom's dog, Kelsey liked me a ton, and it was kind of like she was my dog. And it really kind of helped me realize that okay, I have to be selfless at times. I have to not go out with my friends or not do certain things because I have responsibilities to take care of a dog who I considered a friend, and or sibling to a lot of degrees, and I don't know about you guys if you have pets or whatever, but like I still to this day do it, but like as a kid, you can have conversations with animals that sometimes you can't have or aren't comfortable having with adults or with people. And kids especially, they're able to communicate to dogs and express themselves. And even though the dog may not understand what's going on, it allows the child to get that emotion of whatever there is they're feeling out. And it's like they tell people just write a letter, never send the letter, but just write a letter to get your feelings out. It's kind of the same deal with animals. And the dog just looks at you, wags their tail, and licks your face and thinks your conversation's awesome, even though they have no clue. So I think there's so many benefits to it. The self-esteem thing. I, Again, I think the unconditional love that dogs give us, I think it just helps. Like there's so many people right now, I think, that are dealing with maybe not feeling like they fit in or things like that. And the dog just says, hey, I'm going to accept you for whatever you are. They don't care. As long as you're going to feed them, pet them, and treat them right, they're your best friend. And I mean, I could say this with a lot of different animals. We have cats. I think my cat's a little more judgy. I don't particularly think my cat is like unconditionally in love with me. Like maybe my wife's the cat person, but I'm pretty sure if I didn't feed my cat one meal, he'd hate me. He'd be like, no, you skipped a meal. You're dead to me. Like that's it. But at the same time, I do see the love even our cat has for like my wife and stuff like that. And I mean, he's 18 and almost 18 and a half. And so he's been with us since we moved out together. So he definitely is a big part of the family, but especially like I said, with dogs, they accept us for who we are. They help us just be confident. They teach us the empathy thing. I think is super important, which I think leaks over into humans as well, where you just start to feel for something else that's not your parents and not like, especially as kids, not your parents or siblings. It's just there's another thing out there. And then lastly is just the coping with a loss, like getting to it sounds terrible, but I think it's important for kids to learn how to cope with loss. And like Kelsey was 12 when she died, and obviously I was 12, and I remember that, and I remember celebrating her life before we put her down. And I remember going to the gas station down the road from the vet and picking up a Snickers bar and giving her a Snickers bar before they put her down, so she ate it and everything, and just learning that that's part of life and how to deal with it and live with it. I think it made me a better person long term than having somebody who maybe doesn't have animals and doesn't have to deal with loss or learning how to cope with that stuff. So I could go on and on with the benefits of it, but yeah, that to me, that's the main stuff.
Well, there is so much there. I grew up with cats and dogs. Kazana was the first dog when I came around. My parents have always had cats and dogs. So, the generations of these creatures and their names, some were, in my life and some weren't. Mm-hmm. And she was a German Shepherd, and that was kind of our dog of choice growing up. And we always had a cat. There was always at least one cat with the dog, sometimes two cats. There was very rarely a time where there was not a dog. There was always a pet. But I don't really feel like any one of those pets were mine. And yet they were a part of the family. Like they were very clearly a part of the family. And to your point about learning about loss. So Kazi, as we called her, really liked to roam. We lived out in the country, and she liked to roam the neighborhood and particularly hang out with the old farmer Willie in his barn. And she would be gone for a long time. And, we just assumed she's hanging out with Willie in the barn, and my dad would go over and, okay, it's time to come home. And then there was a time where she didn't come home,
Mm.
and we kept asking, "Where's Kazi? Where's Kazi?" "Oh, she's probably with Willie. She's probably with Willie." And then it was way too long. And then finally, my dad, told us the news, and we were so mad that he didn't tell us sooner, right? And obviously now as an adult, I look back on that, and this was the first time that my dad had to deliver really horrible, hard news to his
Mhm.
children, right? How do you even know how to do that? But it also taught him the next time around to please tell us,
Mhm.
because we didn't get that opportunity to say goodbye, right? And to
Mhm.
really mourn and grieve that loss. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it is such an important part of the empathy and the learning and the cycle of life, because death is part of life, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And being open and honest about the conversation, I think, is super helpful. Sasha, I know you have animals now. Did you grow up with animals?
Yes, we grew up with animals. My first dog was Itchy, and then we had Pongo, and then it went to Wags, and we always had a dog. We've always had a dog. But with this conversation in particular, I want to talk about a dog that we don't have yet. So, Jake, my daughter, has level 3 autism, and she changes. She changes. This is something different. Just something lights up, sparks. Just something happens when she's around dogs. And what she does is she wants to bury her face in like the back 3/4 part of the dog, like by the butt, but not the butt. Okay, not the butt, but the butt. Kind of like she nuzzles her entire head, and she just sits there and she laughs and she giggles, and she is a different kid. And so I have started the journey to get her a service dog, a legitimate service dog for her, because I believe, my mother intuition strongly believes that it will help her become the best version of herself. So I started going down that route. These dogs are incredibly expensive. In order to get put on the wait list, it was $16,000. And that's not even the price of the full dog. It's $32,000 for the dog in itself. And this is for like a qualified dog, like a quality dog. They won't give us the dog until she's 6 years old. And the reason behind that is because of the loss. So they like to say, there's about a 10-year tenure for these dogs, and heaven forbid, they give it to a child with autism at the age of 4. And then they have to deal with the loss of their animal at 14, when they're also going through puberty and adolescent changes. And I don't know what to anticipate for Kyan and what her life will look like at 14. I pray that it is going to be so miraculous that we're going to be looking back at these podcasts and just almost make fun of me, Sisa, she was fine. She is okay. But so we'll get this dog when she's 6 years old, and I can't wait to see how this dog changes her life, how it changes my life, how it changes everyone around us, to see the love of the dog that you speak of, the compassion, the loyalty. The dogs are so incredibly intelligent. They understand that they have a role to play, that they have a job to do, and that when the dog gets selected, they actually go off of my personality, which I found very different, because I would have thought, oh, of course they're going to go off the child. No, they go off of the caretaker's personality, so that it's lesser alpha than me and lesser whatever it is than me. So have fun with that. And then after that, I have to go and do the onboard training, and then the dog will come home with us. So it's a huge responsibility for me, a huge take on for me, but I'm so willing to do it. And I'm just thankful that there are people out there like you that have such a giant heart and that see the beauty in animals and the relationships that they can provide, because Kyan's going to have a different future because of an animal.
Yeah. We've done puppy raising for Minnesota. The big organization in Minnesota is called Can Do Canines, and the wait list for them, like you're saying, it's insane. I mean, they just can't get enough people to raise them. We used to do a lot of puppy raising before we got really busy with our own work, and there was one black lab. We trained him for a year and a half, so we raised him from like 8 weeks old all the way to a year and a half, and then he went to the program and kind of started doing a specializing training. But watching him, and like his job became a lot of mobility assistance stuff, bracing for the person, picking their things up, things like that. We trained a Yorkie. He was a little bit bigger of a Yorkie, but he was from Texas, and he was this Yorkie, and he was trained to be like assist for someone with hearing issues. So like if the doorbell rang, he would alert her. He'd take her socks off. He would help her with different things like that. And I mean, it's amazing watching dogs. I mean, dogs are good in what they do, right? Like golden retrievers, labs, your hunting dogs, when you watch them work, it's amazing. Herding dogs, same thing. You watch them work, but when you watch like when they're actually trained to help people, holy cow, it's really awesome. We've done a lot of like through Can Do Canines. I actually went out and was helping people who got their dogs that were fully trained and helping them kind of get to know the dog, work with the dog, and things like that. And watching how the dog brings out parts of a person that, with the person I'm thinking in particular, he was suffering from PTSD from being in the army and stuff, and like he didn't want to be around people, and having that dog, like I said earlier, having that dog kind of made him go, okay, well, there's something more important than just me. I have to get this dog out. I have to do things with this dog. And it got him out in the community more and got him more comfortable in the community. And then as his issues started to become a little bit more debilitating, where he then had to go to a wheelchair, this dog was already bonded to him and with him. And it was such a smooth transition that it took the load of the stress of, okay, now I'm going to have to be in a wheelchair off of him more, because he knew he had that companion that was going to help him work through it. So no, it's amazing watching service dogs like work and stuff like that. It's absolutely awesome. And with autistic stuff, we see it a lot. I've never worked directly with a dog or with someone with autism, like that type of team, but like watching how it does affect people and the dog, the dog can feed into it. The right dog feeds into it and sees it and is like, okay, yeah, I just have to do certain things. Like even when you get sad, watch how your dog reacts when you get sad. A lot of times they read it and they're like, okay, the energy's changed, and you can see them, whether they really understand what's going on or not, I'm not sure, but like they seem to be almost sympathetic. Like they come to you and they're like, are you okay? Most of them. There's some dogs who'll be like, oh, you're unhappy, I don't care, let's go play ball. But for the most part, dogs read that and they're like, okay, something's wrong with my person. And so no, it's awesome to see.
Well, I think that's such a great point about energy, because it is absolutely that animals are more sensitive to it than people. I mean, I could give you multiple examples. When I was a personal trainer, I did in-home training, and I knew based on how the dogs were behaving, what I was stepping into in the house, whether it was obvious to me or not. There are things that went on prior to me ringing that doorbell, and I know exactly what it was based on the behavior of the dogs. I have cats currently. So as an adult, I didn't have pets because I was single. I was on the go all the time. And it felt like I could give the pet the attention that it needed because of my travel and, just living life that I wanted to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we got married, my husband wanted some critters and we're in a high rise. We're like, okay, let's get cats. We both like cats. So we get these two little creatures, 8 weeks old, stinking adorable as can be. Talk about bonding. This was a time when there was a major economic crash. My husband was a financial advisor. And so if you're around during that time in 2007, 8, 9, not good. I was personal trainer, not good. So we literally were home every single minute. These kitties from the time they were 8 weeks old have never been without a human in their presence. And so now, fast forward, they are now 14. The marriage ended. I inherited the cats, which I was totally fine with, but oh my goodness, I will tell you, for at least 6 to 8 months, they were looking around wondering where he is.
Mm-hmm.
They were mourning. They didn't understand why this other human wasn't there anymore. There were times when I was, going through some emotional stuff, and mainly I talk about this in lots of podcasts about my dreams, because he would literally infiltrate my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And the one major one, I wake up and my cats are literally like hovering over me, because apparently I was very active in real life because of this dream. So they know energy. They absolutely, cats, dogs, 100%. I think a lot of other animals do as well. And, they can also help us change our energy, right? You're feeling maybe amped up, go take a break and do what in my family we call fuzz therapy. Right? Just go sit with your pet and get some buzz therapy, right?
Mhm.
Take a breather, let them kind of absorb some of your energy and you bring that sense of calm. Or maybe you're feeling kind of and you need to be picked up, right? You need to be sparked up. So your pet can probably offer that to you as well. I think it is such an interesting relationship. And one of the red flags for me often when I meet someone and they tell me they don't like animals, mm, I don't
What's wrong
know.
with
I
you?
don't
My
know.
gosh. Mhm.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. How would because I do see a lot of people struggle with their pets, right? They get mad at the animal because it's not behaving.
Mhm.
Well, probably it hasn't been trained, is my guess.
Yeah.
So, what is some advice that you would give to people who are thinking about, or maybe they have an animal and it just doesn't seem to be working quite like the blissful experience that they thought it would be?
Mhm.
What are some things to maybe do to correct, or what are some things to look at or think about before you even go ahead and do try to get an animal that becomes part of your family?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, as we're talking about all this stuff, we're talking about all the awesome things dogs can bring into our lives. But the problem is, especially with kids, the problem that I find though is there can be the opposite effect if it's not a right fit or if something's just not gelling correctly. I think the biggest thing is from the get go, and it doesn't matter if you rescued the dog, if you got it from a breeder, it doesn't matter. When I get a dog, or like if I have a dog come in for training, the first thing I do is, all right, we're going to set some rules and we're going to start to hold true to those rules. I think when we have that consistency in our training, to me, or just in our interactions with our dogs, that's when things start to be a little bit more smooth sailing. When I'm adamant that my dog doesn't jump on me, or I let my dog jump on me, then it's going to be all the time. The problem with people is that we tend to let our mood dictate what's happening. So you get home from work, you've had a great day, the dog jumps on you, you're like, "Hey buddy, I miss you." You get home from work, you had a bad day, dog does the same thing it did before, comes to say hi to you, they jump on you and you're like, "No, get off. Oh, I'm tired of you jumping on me," or something like that, right? And so if we can just be consistent as we can be, that to me just keeps things black and white. I have a dog in for training right now. He's literally 8 feet from me in his crate resting. And that's what we've been dealing with him, is getting him onto a consistent, very fair rule schedule. Like, okay, well, you're not going to jump on us because that's one thing he really likes to do. No barking, no biting, things like that. You have to listen. And when dogs start to understand kind of where they stand in things and they understand the rules and everything, and it's crystal clear to them, that consistency to me just makes everything better. The bond you build with your dog is better because now they're not stressed or confused. You're more happy because the dog's being well behaved. It just becomes really good. And when you incorporate, like Sasha, with you getting the dog, incorporating kids can be a tricky thing when it comes to dogs because in my opinion, I don't like introducing kids to the training part of dogs too soon unless the dog knows it. Once the dog knows a skill, then I'll have young kids. Older kids, they can be part of it, whatever. But when we're talking about young kids, I want them to have success so that they enjoy the experiences with the dog. So having them have the dog sit, having them down, things the dog is just a rock star at. Those things to me is when I'll have a kid start to get involved. But when it comes to the education part, as a parent, like I said, I don't have kids, but as a parent, I would want to do most of the training and then just transfer what the dog knows to the kid and have it be more streamed that way. Like we deal with clients whose dog runs over their kid and their kid hates the dog, and then really young kids tend to lash out towards the dog. They want to slap them or whatever, something like that, and it just creates this wedge in the relationship that's not what we want. There's so many times we deal with clients that they get the dog for the best intentions, and then the relationship between either them or their dog or the kid and the dog is kind of broken through, again, not having those fair rules. So training is super important. Classes are important. Socializing is important. I mean, all the basic things you think of when you get a dog, but just making sure everybody is consistent with what you're telling them. Like the whole house has to be on board. If one person's saying, "I'm going to let the dog jump to me all the time," and then you're saying, "No, I don't want the dog to jump on me all the time. I want the dog to stay off to everybody," the dog's going to go, "What the heck?" Well, when guests come, what do I do then? Like, they're not gonna know. So, fairness, we just need to be more black and white to 'em. To me, I think that alone is what creates the best bonds you can have when you and your dog are kind of on the same playing field, you understand things, and it's just awesome. Like, it can be awesome.
Yeah, I have a big dog. His name is Bear.
Saw that.
He'll come over here because he heard his name. He'll say, Bear, what? So Bear came before Cayenne, and I will tell you, he's not a fan of Cayenne. He is not a fan of Cayenne, but you know why? Because Cayenne took away mom.
Hmm.
And so it's been one of those things where I find myself like, oh, Bear, because he's huge and he'll knock the kids over. And all of a sudden I'm like, I just need to get rid of Bear. And it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. We don't get rid of Bear. We got Bear. Bear is a responsibility, and I know that my gal pal Jordan, that's one of the things that occur is like, if you make this commitment to an animal, then you need to make sure that you make this commitment to the animal.
Mhm.
And the animal, Bear has been there for me through some of the ickiest times of my life. And he has always just been loyal and been there for me to cuddle and to hold. But what would you suggest in those times? Is there anything that I can do to help Bear and Cayenne establish a connection whatsoever? I mean, I'm telling you, he wants nothing to do with her.
Well, that's fair. So they can coexist, right?
They totally can coexist. I wish she could nuzzle him the way that she wants to,
Mhm. Every dog's a little different. So like, I don't think it's fair you can't force a dog to like, it's like a person. You can't be like, no, you have to love that person. Like it just doesn't work. Dogs the same way. Some dogs just tend to be more willing or able, breeds. I'm trying to look, I can see him from the back. Is he like a Great Dane something?
He's a Great Dane Mastiff mix.
Dang it, I was gonna say Mastiff
And
too. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, he doesn't mind Draco, but he just, for whatever reason, I think it's because Kine was the first kiddo to come along and take away the 100% of me. So I'm assuming that that's just the way it's gonna be.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if.
So, I mean, there's things you can try to do, but again, if you try to force things, sometimes it can backfire. Making sure that each, you're giving him his time. Like, yeah, you said he was there for you for a lot of stuff, and we have to keep that in mind. We have to remember that. And so, like, giving him his time, like even when we have two dogs, like you get a new dog and your other dog is super jealous. Like one of the dogs we had, that was one of the issues. The client was like, every time I pet another dog, my dog flies in and just will like throw the other dog away and just want the attention. I think it's trying to create that balance of sharing. Like, okay, when I'm spending time with one, the other one can stay away or can be around. I'm not saying like leave, I'm petting the dog, but like can be around. But it's just trying to let the dog understand you're still important, you're part of this, but like there's going to be things, at times I'm not going to be able to give you all the attention I used to. It stinks for the dog, but like he's going to have to understand it, like he'll get there, but
No, that totally makes sense.
you can't force it. Like I just feel like giving it time and giving him his space and everything, or giving him that attention, that tends to help a lot too. And I think, like I said, I think it's fair for dogs to just, if certain dogs don't like other dogs, certain dogs don't like other people or whatever. And as long as they're coexisting, that might be what we get, what we get. As long as he's not trying to bite anybody or do anything nasty, we're fine. In my opinion, like we're okay.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jake, I want to just circle back to something that you said earlier, or at least a version of it, the importance of training. And I really believe that most people who get a dog do not train their dogs. Most people just think, oh, it's just a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I can, it'll do what I want it to do, or, it'll do dog things. I mean, I can guess what your take on that is, but let's talk about why taking that time to train your dog is so important.
Well, so I did a podcast. Oh, probably this might have been just a week or two ago, one of mine, and it was talking about dog intelligence. And so the dog we have right now, they put this big article out saying, okay, the Belgian Malinois has been now listed as the smartest dog. They've done a bunch of studies and all this stuff, has become the smartest dog, better, smarter than the Border Collie, whatever. And when you start to listen to pet dog people, they're like, oh, I want one. I want a smart dog. I want this and that. And I think all dogs to some degree are intelligent. I grew up with Basset Hounds. I owned a Basset Hound when we moved out. He lived to be 12. His name was Copper. And they say they're not intelligent. They're not smart dogs. No, he's smart. He just has his own, he's stubborn. He has his own process of what he wants to do. And if it aligns with me, great. If it doesn't, there's going to be, we'll butt heads a little bit. But you know, I just feel like when you say, oh yeah, people don't want to train dogs, there is a degree of that. Or they go, well, I'm just going to do it on my own at home. And that can also be a problem too, because sometimes I always video record when I'm doing my training sessions, like with my own dog, so that I can nitpick myself. And that's the benefit of training with people and stuff like that, or even just doing like a guided course, is that you're able to get that help and see, okay, this is exactly how you deliver. This is what you do. Because honestly, if you just say, I'm just going to let my dog be a dog, yeah, you could have dogs that are great for sure, but you're also going to have this big handful of dogs that have figured out how to get exactly what they want. It's just not in ways you want it to be. You know, dogs aren't stupid. I don't care what breed you have; they're not stupid animals. And like even our dog, his name is Ludacris. We call him Luda, and he is named after the rapper. But he's a super smart dog. But I have a feeling in another home, he could have been just a turd. Like I think he's so smart. He would have figured out how to manipulate the people and everything. And so I think the training your dog, like I mentioned before, it's just that consistency stuff. It has to, you want to set those rules so that you have what you want. You don't want to have to put your dog away when you have guests over because you're afraid your dog's going to jump on people, or if you didn't socialize them, might bite somebody. You want them to be able to enjoy being around other people. You don't want your dog afraid of people. You don't want your dog to you know, when it gets out the front door and starts running away, you don't want them to just run away like that. We live out in the country, but we live in a development per se, like 2.5 acres. Everyone has their own thing. And it's amazing how many people just let their dogs roam. Like you were mentioning with your German Shepherd. And so we have a lot of that country mindset, but we kind of have, there's a lot of things around in a busy road. And you watch these people try to call their dogs back and their dog's just like, nope, bye, see ya. And it's like, I could never, I don't know how people do it. Like the dog runs towards, we have a highway not far from us. And I'm like, oh my Lord. Like I'm driving home. I'm like, oh, there's so-and-so's dog in the highway again. I'm like, this is insane. So yeah, I actually think a lot of people get dogs and they think, okay, I have to train. I know I'm supposed to, but maybe they just don't know what to do. And then it just, puppies grow up really quick. And suddenly they're like, oh my God, I have this 8-month-old dog who I thought I had time with. And now he's a big dog and he's doing a lot of things now I can't control because the dog went, oh, if you tell me to come, I don't got to listen to you. I'm just going to run away. What are you going to do about it? I'm faster than you, without building that foundation and starting right away and everything. So, no, training, of course, socializing, all that stuff is just incredibly important from the get-go.
The entire time you were talking about training your dog and making sure that they socialize and that they don't bite other people, and I was just like, man, it sounds like a toddler. It sounds like a toddler. You have to train your toddlers too to not be little turds. So train your toddlers, train your dogs.
Exactly.
Got it.
And what you're saying, that's why I actually have a lot of respect for wherever you're getting that dog from, for them to say, we don't want to have the dog go until they're older. Like I respect until your kid's older. I totally respect what they're saying with the loss, but I also think, if you get a dog, like my parents did it, but they were trainers and starting off trainers at the time. So but if we get a lot of people who get dogs when, they're pregnant and they're like, well, I'm going to have the kid and the dog. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like you think your dog is just a dog and it's going to be a dog, right? You have no idea the amount of responsibility and time you have to put into training that dog. And then you have an infant. I don't know. I don't know a lot of people who have successfully necessarily done it. Like we get so many calls and so many dogs in for that reason. They're like, well, my dog's one and I had a kid, with the dog and everything. And I'm not giving it what it needs. Yeah, that makes sense. Your kid's going to be your priority, of course. But there's so much stuff that's similar, socializing, all these different things that you have to do with the dog that, man, it's just so much work. It is a lot. It's a lot of work. And I don't think people realize kind of what they're getting into. We try to warn them. I warn them in the podcast so many times. I try to tell people, make sure you're ready. Make sure dogs are expensive. Even if you get a dog for cheap, they're still so expensive. vet bills add up, all this stuff adds up, training that adds up, and you have to be just mentally prepared for sure
I
when you're
love
taking this
that.
on.
Do you mind sharing with us one more time so that if one of our listeners is interested in, finding out more, they might be getting a dog or, what the name of your podcast one more time so that they can share it with their network
Mhm.
as well?
Yeah, the podcast is called Learn, Laugh, Bark. Our company's On Dog Training Academy. And we actually we have this webinar we have on our website right now that talks about kind of what I mentioned here, where we're talking about consistency with training and stuff. And we just have it on there as like a free thing to help people. We kind of put it on there as sort of like a Christmas thing, and we've just left it up, and people can go and just listen to it. And it just talks about the importance of consistency just in your training. I don't care if you have kids or if you don't have kids, just to be able to live that life where you're going to have this awesome bond with your dog. Um, you want to have that consistency in that training. I think it's so important. I think when we talked a little earlier or a few days ago, I mentioned my dog and we talked about like bonding and relationships. And like the first dog we had, Kato, he was our first Malinois we ever owned. I was really bonded to him. Like me and him, me and him and my wife too, obviously. But like we went to Italy. We traveled to Italy with him to compete over there in a sport we do. And he was awesome. We trust him, but he died at 4.5 because he got bone cancer. But we were so bonded to him. Now this new dog, Luda, I say new, he's almost 7. He turned 7 in March 1st, so it's coming up. The relationship I have with him is next level. Like he's super smart for one, and I can tell him to do all these different things, but just like the emotional connection we have, it's amazing what these animals can do. And me and him and him and my wife as well. But like, it's just a whole different level of connection that we have. So I imagine that's what parents feel with kids. I don't know. I mean, they've done studies and they do talk about how people's emotional connections with their pets can be very much just like their emotional connection to their kids, and that loss is the same. It hits them. I feel bad saying it hits them as hard because I know it's a dog and a person, but emotionally, I think it can hit them just as hard.
Yeah.
Maybe one thing that is different between a kid and a dog is you can do a little to maybe specifically pick the dog to have the best bond possible.
Mhm.
So what do you do in terms of maybe, screening somebody to really find a good match of the type of dog, not just the dog, but the breed and all of those things that might play into, what kind of relationship this ultimately is going to end up being?
Yeah. I mean, you can make it work with any breed. If you decide I'm going to get a certain breed, you can make it work. But I always tell people, and I was guilty of this, don't get a dog because you grew up with them. The first dog I got when we moved out was a Basset Hound. I loved Copper, but like really the way my life was progressing, he was awesome for a lot of things, but he was starting to not fit in it quite as much. I was becoming more active in different sports that were high level sports, which is why we got the Malinois when we did. But just making sure that when you get a dog, it's going to fit your lifestyle. Don't get a super high energy dog and we've dealt with this. You're 85 and you have mobility issues, right? The physical needs of that dog have to be considered. I have to run this dog. This dog needs playtime. This dog needs mental stimulation. I know with my own dog that if I wouldn't work with him like I do, he'd go stir crazy. Mentally, like I know when we take some days off, he just goes, you can see him looking at me like, Dad, I'm bored. Like, we need to do something. We need to do something soon. I'm super bored. So I'll go play fetch with him. We'll do some training stuff, whatever. But just the first thing is, let's make sure that dog's a fit for you. I had a friend who got a dog who got a Brittany, and this was years and years ago now. He ended up rehoming the dog. And I'm like, why'd you pick a Brittany? Because his lifestyle, he plays video games. He doesn't do a whole lot of like physical stuff. And I'm like, what made you get a Brittany? And he goes, well, I read that they train themselves. And I'm like, oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness. Yes. And that dog did train himself. I will say that dog trained himself. He trained himself how to climb up to a tree to jump over the fence to run away all the time. And so like that's what you have to keep in mind. And we've talked about financials and things like that as well. But I always, when I go and look at a dog or I'm looking at a puppy, I'm not going to sit there and go, well, I'm going to pick this dog because he's the happiest running around. Well, that might show you that puppy's got a ton of energy and maybe that's not going to fit, or you're going to pick the dog who's who's low key and super mellow and seemingly a little shy when you have kids and a lot of stuff going on. Like you always want to make sure that it's going to fit. Again, like Sasha, like you were saying, with that they're going to fit the dog to match you or to make sure it's a good fit. That's awesome. That's perfect. And that's kind of the same thing. Whether the breeder does it, I personally like to go and look at dogs. Like when we picked out Luda, went to the breeder, spent a week with the breeder because he was awesome, and was able to like watch the dog's interactions, watch how it was, and we were able to clearly go, okay, he's the one we want. He's our fit. He's it. And honestly, don't get a dog on a whim. Don't be like, oh yeah, we went camping and this person was selling these dogs, so I got one. Or I felt bad for the dog, so I got one. I get the whole like feeling bad and rescuing and stuff like that. And it's a tough no, but you're setting yourself up for heartbreak if you get a bad fit in your house. And it's just not, it's not something I try to tell people to, as much as I can, educate them on selecting dogs, because that heartbreak is sad. You know, when it's not a good fit, when they have to rehome it, then they have to tell the kids, hey, we're getting rid of this dog, and it's not good. So just be real careful, make sure it's going to be a good fit, read what the breed's about, and make sure, yeah, like it's going to fit into what I need it to be.
It's like so many other things. You invest that time and energy on the front end to save you time, energy, money, stress, poor choices, and bad outcomes. Right. And so I think that is such a good point. Sasha, before we officially wrap up, any questions? Go ahead.
No questions. One takeaway from this, not just dog training, y'all. Everything in life. Consistency. Michelle talks about it all the time. She preaches about it. Baby steps towards consistency. You want to have a better relationship with your partner. You want to have a better relationship with your body, mental health. You have to do the hard things. Stay consistent. It will pay off, just like Michelle said. So, you know, on even on the hard days, even on the dark and dreary days, pull yourself out of it and just try your best to stay consistent.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, me and my wife have been working together for over 15 years. I'm overweight, so I get the whole like weight stuff too. Like, no, consistency for sure. You've got to be everything.
Well, Jake, this was a great conversation. I love I really love the angle that we took here, because I think for those of us who have pets, sometimes I think we do take it for granted. I take for granted the love that my kitties give me, because sometimes I'm like, oh my God, leave me alone. Like, you are on me all the time. And I reframe that with, I am so grateful I have these creatures that love me and that want me and that need me, because what else would I do? If I didn't have them, nobody would give a darn that I've been gone for 8 days and I just walked in the house, right? That I know there is something home waiting for me that is going to be really happy to see me, versus those years where there wasn't. And it is a difference. So for anybody out there, you know, thinking about a pet, you have pets, maybe you're going to have a new appreciation of the love that is being given, receiving, the things that our pets are teaching us, that unconditional love that we can also then translate into how we interact with humans, right? Because this is all about relationship, whatever the relationship is. And those pets can bring out the best in us. They can teach us a lot. They can give us a lot. We can give it to them and recognize that we can give it to another living creature as well, if we're willing to receive it. So with the theme of love, hopefully you got some good takeaways from this. Jake, you get the final words. Anything before we officially sign off?
No, this has been great. I love reminiscing about my past dogs because of what they've taught me. So being able to come on and talk and really, I haven't, until we started talking about doing this podcast, I hadn't really thought about Kelsey in a long time. So it was really cool to go back and think about like what she taught me through life. And I mean, up till I was 12 years old. So it's just been an absolute blast to talk and everything. And I appreciate you letting me come on and do this with you guys.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you so much. And everybody, we appreciate you for listening. In fact, we love it. Hope you keep doing it. Hope you got some good takeaways. And now you get to go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.